Hello everyone, today we're checking Libra's theme from Elden Ring Nightreign. Now, I don't know if Libra is the best boss of Elden Ring Nightreign, but he's definitely the GOAT. The GOAT? Now mind you, this isn't a dad joke, it's a bad joke. And if you cringed, you are legally obligated to hit the bell. So you have more of this nonsense. For those of you who might be new here, hi, I'm Daniel Teach. I am a composer and I teach college-level music composition and production. So I hope you'll enjoy your stay, and without further ado, let's begin. We have 3 phases of Libra to explore. We better get to it. What were you smoking when you made that? It's so cool. It's really unique as a track, and I think, yeah, this is gonna be a fun one, guys. I love it. This is another Shoei Miyazawa track, the same composer who composed the main theme for Elden Ring Nightreign. We have explored it here, for those of you who are interested, somewhere above. This track, like the main theme, begins with sound design before any of the other notes come in, really setting the scene. But here, it's not an ambience of like a room or like rain or whatever. It is a cymbal being kind of scratched, being slowly dragged, which gives you this kind of unpleasant, metallic sense of tension. Then we have another metallic hit that sounds kind of like a bell ringing. But this also sounds oddly familiar to anybody who's ever died in a From Software game. And I think they know that. I think that that's the type of panic you're trying to induce. The whole sudden death by frenzy. Essentially telling you, just so you know, you're screwed. That's kind of how they're setting the scene for this one. Really playing on player familiarity with the existing sound design and musical elements of Elden Ring and any other From Software game. In the back, we have more metallic sound that are kind of stretched. Basically, it's artificially stretched. We do that sometimes in sound design to kind of extract different characters from a recorded sample, creating all kinds of interesting soundscapes. It is very unnatural and very unsettling. So obviously, it's used in horror a lot, as are a lot of the elements that are in this track that I've seen already. So horror is definitely part of what they're trying to get at. But I have a strong feeling it's not everything. Notice how they're having this tiny little break before the entry of the percussion and the entry of the choir. They're having this moment, like that little tiny moment of break before it explodes in your face. As we've mentioned, like in previous videos, it's that effect of going directly into the loud from the very quietest point. It's all about how sharp the incline is of the dynamic movement of the track. So this is very cool. The vocals, let's try to kind of isolate them for a second. The vocals move very unnaturally. There's something that is kind of combining reversed tracks of vocal, playing it from the end to the beginning, and it's very hard to tell when you listen to the whole thing. And I think that's the doozy of this opener. It's very hard to tell what's your tonal center. It is dissonance incarnate, and that's how they kind of get that sense of frenzy harmonically, is by you not being able to tell what is the core tone, what should we be listening to, when your ear doesn't know what to focus on. It basically works overtime in trying to analyze what you're seeing, what you're not seeing, where should I be looking. This is literally dragging you into cognitive frenzy, or at least subconscious frenzy, right? Because your brain cannot find a point to stay on and focus on. There is no focus. There's just the voices. the screaming. You can notice how the strings basically have this very quick chromatic notes, or like, and it's like it's creeping up your neck. It's something that is so disorienting tonally that at some point our ear gives up almost in trying to find out what's happening. It lets chaos take the world. Let's continue. Okay, that's super cool. We have like this underlying beat of like a very tribal, very raw sense of rhythm. Also, beyond the vocals having no clear tonality, the usage of non-pitched metallic percussion sounds is extremely effective in giving you this sense of uncanny valley, this kind of uncomfortable effect. Another piece of media that kind of utilized this non-pitched percussion instrument to create an uncanny, uncomfortable effect was Spirited Away, the soundtrack by Joe Hisaishi, which is great, by the way. Let me know if you want me to explore it in the comments below. They used for No Faces theme kind of a collection of metallic non-pitched, or at least non-tonal, percussion hits. And in that movie, it was more to describe how No Face has no identity of its own. It had to consume to get that identity, which was kind of his arc during the movie. Here, it really helps shape Libra as a force of nature more than he is a character, because melody is personality. In a way, when something is melodic, it's a bit like speech in the sense that we can recognize it, we can follow it, sort of like a person's nature, character, personality. Libra doesn't have that. Libra is chaos itself. In this way, Libra is presented more as a force of nature. It is not really an individual, it is a concept. We will be going into Libra and the idea of frenzy in a little bit, but for now, let's continue with the first phase. Even when we have a line that we can follow, right? In the strings. Let's see if I can isolate it. A little bit at least. It's more chromatic than it is melodic. It's a gesture. But it's not a melody. It has no structure. It's erratic. It is wild. Definitely keeps you on your toes in a fight like this. Also, the chaos is represented by multiple directions. You have the lower strings going up, and you have the higher strings moving chromatically from the top to the bottom. Basically, descent into madness. It's all enveloping, and it's very effective for it. The usage here of vocals is extremely interesting because it combines those tribal grunts with the choir vocals at the top. Again, it has no clear direction that you can follow. It throws at you contradicting information. And again, I'm not saying the track has no direction. It is literally, that's very hard to do, throwing you in every direction. So no direction feels comfortable enough for you to actually understand what's going on. Your brain is incapable of going into autopilot because it can't figure out the patterns. They keep changing. So here we have something that resembles a melody at least, but the rhythm was also picking up to kind of give you more information to have to deal with and juggle in your brain. So we have that's the melodic line. And the rhythm, that syncopated beat of da 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 da. Check it out. Da da da. That little rattling sound, that metallic percussion shaking thingy, it makes it feel a little bit like the genre of this is demonic trap music. I mean, it's something that really plays into that hyper aggressive rhythm and the overwhelming high frequencies and low frequency saturation. Notice that even when they're having an acoustic instrument playing a melody, they make sure the entire harmonic field around it makes as little sense as possible. A melody usually has gravity in a certain direction. You can try to deduce a certain tonality from it, but here they are really contradicting that information, so it feels more like an effect. It feels more like an auditory gesture than it does a melody. That instrument, by the way, I will go on a tangent about it in a little bit when we talk about the lore. Oh, okay, I guess it's party time. What just happened? Give me a second. Okay, this is just diabolical. I have to show you. So, up until now we've had this pattern. When we went into each kind of section of the first phase, we've had like the 2, 3, 4. I'll play you that so you know what I mean. You know, we had like da, da, da. They are taking that one thing that you could lean on, which is the counting of rhythm, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, were you sitting here? Nah, boy, nah. We're taking that away. They're kind of pulling the rug from beneath your feet. Let's take a look. It does the counting twice. It does like dum, 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 dum. And then it's playing coy, and it has a moment of silence. And then it goes in. They're delaying the entrance, which is, again, one of these things that would definitely throw your rhythm off as you're playing the boss fight. It is intentionally getting you to panic. This is just another great example of how music in video games can up the difficulty, because it turns into this very primal sense that we have of pattern recognition. It is an evolutionary feature. As humans, we'll look for a change in patterns, and we will overlook other things to pay attention to that change in pattern. It's smart, it's effective. I really, really like how competent this soundtrack is and everybody who made it. It is a stunning example of professionalism. Genuinely, let's try to count that thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's like, oh, up until now we've given you the strong beat, the 1, and then the 2 slaps you in the face and begins an absolute rave. It is just such an intelligent, well-crafted piece of media. So when we covered the main theme, some of you told me in the comments that From Software, in most games besides Bloodborne, hardly ever use real lyrics in their music, mainly just a combination of syllables that sounds like akin to lyrics but not particular. Here, I think we have a different type of confusion they're creating. They are saying multiple syllables at once, so it's not intelligible. You cannot understand what they're saying, even what portions of word they're saying. It becomes a cloud of vocal, a cloud of tribal chanting that you couldn't derive meaning from, even if you were stretching. I think when something is this unintelligible, it scares us. It is the nature of not knowing what we're facing, which is very, very interesting. And also, perhaps, lore relevant. Or at least, design philosophy relevant. You'll see what I mean. They did it again. They used that counting, tom, 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 but then they're also skipping the strong beat at the end of this counting. They just go into a much more subtle, much less percussive area of the track. These lower strings kind of give you a menacing feeling from below, but beyond that, they're kind of taking away the percussion. That's because if everything would happen all of the time, you would get used to it. So they have to throw you off. They have to take it away. So when they bring it back, it will hit you even harder. They're running this chromatic line between ta-ra-la, ta-ra-la, ta-ra-la. First they had it in the strings, and now they're having it in, I think it's a piano or something, but it's basically very hard to tell because it's all kind of melting into one. It is that tendency of chaos and what it symbolizes in Elden Ring, of melting everything that divides and distinguishes, everything that creates order because of separation. It's melting it back into like a single entity that you can't break apart. Although I'm gonna try. But you can't really say when that line begins and when did it move to the other instrument, because it's all kind of melding together, melting into this musical entity that is pure chaos. And now we have the ending, the portion that's usually not going to appear in-game because it's going to loop back to the last loopable point. But it still ends with this menacing color, something that is definitely not human. And I think that is the goal here. The goal is to represent the demonic, to present chaos as a force of nature, which brings me to our boy, Libra. Before we get anywhere near his lore, let me say this. He's Satan and his deals suck. Do not, and I repeat, do not make deals with the devil, unless he offers cookies. So let's see if we can find any connections between the things we just listened to in the track and Libra's lore, beginning with the following description. A goat-headed being who pretends to be a man, said to be able to use a dubious form of alchemy. Counterfeit gold causes loss of sanity, beckoning madness. However, those who ferment madness are sure to succumb to the self-same malady in the end. This text on its own is extremely interesting, beginning with the obvious, a goat-headed being who pretends to be a man. In Elden Ring, Shabriri is basically a hype man for the Flame of Frenzy. He's completely devoted to the cause, and he's based on a demon with the same name from Jewish mythology, called Shabriri. The story of Shabriri would be that if you went at night to drink from a water source outside, Shabriri will steal your eyesight and you will be blind. That story probably existed to encourage people not to drink from water sources that had parasitic elements in them. In Shabriri's case, the choice of name really isn't coincidental, because the Flame of Frenzy also rests in the eyes of the people who embrace it. But while we had Shabriri in the base game, we have another demonic depiction from Mesopotamian descent in Elden Ring Nightreign. Because Libra's design is obviously based on the demon Baphomet, a demon that has a very interesting set of characteristics around it. By having the head of a goat, but the body of a human, having both masculine and feminine features, Baphomet represents the union of opposites, but in a different way than we're used to when it comes to the rebus, which is the alchemical representation of the masculine and the feminine in one being. I think this is why it says here that Libra uses a dubious form of alchemy. In the world of Elden Ring, where the being that is the rebus is considered the peak of creation, here it's a mockery of that idea. If we look at the hegemony of the lands between, which is the Air Tree, it is the Golden Order at this point, it is understandable how Libra would be considered a mockery of the idea of the rebus, a mockery of the form of alchemy that kind of is the foundation for the lands between. We'll see in a couple of seconds how it connects to the music, but calling Frenzy counterfeit gold is extremely interesting because it also represents the bad deals that Libra offers you, which usually benefits him over whatever it is offering you. But also it represents Frenzy as a counterfeit gold, which really supports the interpretation that the three fingers are actually just a mocking form of the two fingers. And when the text says, however, those who ferment madness are sure to succumb to the self-same malady in the end, I'm pretty sure that is referring to the fact that frenzy is self-destructive, and Libra is also weak to frenzy, does not only inflict it. I think the reason why Libra does not have the feminine features that Baphomet has, it's because they wanted to separate that real gold, the actual Rebus, Radagon Merica, from the counterfeit gold, as if Libra, unlike Baphomet, does not really have the union of opposites within him. In this illustration from 1854 to 56 by Eliphas Levi, Baphomet is also depicted with a pentagram on his forehead, but with a bright moon and a dark moon on both of their corners. They also have the caduceus sitting in their lap, which is another helix iconography that we've definitely seen a lot of in Elden Ring and especially in Shadow of the Erdtree. It is commonly connected to the idea of as above, so below. It is a very prominent concept in the world of occultism, and I think this illustration of Eliphas Levi is really so very Elden Ring-y. It's impossible to think that they didn't have it with them when they were working on developing the game. It is quite a known piece of art, and it's not the only depiction of Baphomet, but it is very interesting, which brings me back to the music. I think the fact that Libra is so heavily inspired by Baphomet also shows in the soundtrack. For example, listen to that growling wind instrument that we've heard in the first phase for Libra's theme. I'm pretty sure this instrument that growls and rages is called a zurna. This is a Turkish or Armenian instrument that is extremely tense with the sound that it makes because of the very strong air pressure coming from that little leaf that you blow into. While it sounds beautiful, it is also very aggressive and tense. Now, how does it connect to the artistic influence? Well, Baphomet isn't a demon from Mesopotamian lore. Historians claim that the creation of Baphomet was born out of a clash between two cultures, European and Middle Eastern, or more specifically, Christianity and Islam. Using these instruments that echo that area of the world, combined with the tribal chants and the confusion, that is very true to the birth of the idea of Baphomet. This shows you when a concept runs deep. When something is used not just as some vague artistic inspiration, oh, I like the shape of it, but I would like to kind of echo where it came from. That level of confusion, of fear, of misunderstanding, of a clash with the strange as incomprehensible. The clash between cultures and religions that are contradictory to one another in their set of values, which definitely echoes with the way Frenzy and Gold do not see eye to eye on what should be the direction the world moves in. All of it is so beautifully packed into the soundtrack, I can't help but admire it. It's an absolutely masterful display. Well, without further ado, time to get back to Phase 2. I felt that. Okay, let's talk about it. We begin again with that idea of non-tonal metallic hits. It's more clear to hear it this time. It's much more focused because nothing hides it. This repetitive metallic striking really reminds me a lot of No Face's theme from Spirited Away. That lack of identity, that need to consume, to have a face. And I think it connects to a different idea in this game that I believe is a huge part of it. Very few characters or entities in this game have names. They have monikers, they have titles, but they hardly ever have names. Only in the realm of the Night Lord do we actually see the Night Lords showing their actual name. They're always described, let's say in the menu, Libra is the equilibrious beast. It's a title. When we're talking about Wilder, it is the Wilder. That's not his name, it is his title. Even Morgoth, which would probably go by Margit since he goes by the Fell Omen, his name doesn't appear here. We know his name, but it says the Fell Omen, not his name. And I think I know why. I do think it can be related to the way psychologist Carl Jung depicted the structure of the psyche. In the core of everything, we have the self. It is hidden, it is within the unconscious. That's why it's in the center of the circle. Then we have the ego, the way that we see ourselves. What we see about our consciousness, the level to which we are aware of who we are, at least without working towards anything farther than that. Counter to the ego, there is the shadow. The shadow contains the things that we repress, the things we don't confront because we don't like how they make us feel about ourselves. This idea of the Jungian shadow was definitely a big part of Shadow of the Erdtree, since everything in the realm of shadow was essentially repressed and locked out. Now, as a part of Jung's theory, the idea is that if we learn to confront our shadow, we will be able to actually reach our actual self, not only our ego, which is where we are naturally. But I want to touch on a different part of that diagram, because Shadow of the Erdtree touched on the shadow, but here we're looking at the outer circle. This game is happening in the periphery of the universe of Elden Ring. And the edges of this diagram are present in this game. Maybe they're even what the game is based on, just like the DLC was based on Shadow. Primarily, the reason nobody has names, just monikers, is the persona. That type of personality we wear outwards. That part of how people know us, not how we see ourselves, but what we project to them. It's a mask, a set of characters, things that we decide to embody. And I think Nightreign is very much focused on the idea of the persona. In Japanese, the name of the Night Lord itself, I think, is nameless. So I do think this diagram is a very useful tool for understanding the thought process of how Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, and Nightreign were created. We will definitely go back to this diagram when we get to the Noster fight, considering in the latest events, the names Animus and Anima did appear in the boss fight. So yeah, you can say I'm wearing a tinfoil hat, but I think I have tinfoil because I'm cooking. Okay, let's continue with phase 2. Ooh, we've started with a very acoustic soundscape, but now, on the side, and I think it's leaning more towards the right, we have this distorted, aggressive sound that's definitely not acoustic. It is definitely something electronic, synthesizers. It is a new color that's being presented here, at least up until now, from what we've seen. It's very unique, it's very aggressive, and it's supposed to send chills down your spine when you're fighting this enemy. Here we have this like stumbling feeling, like da 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 da, and again the strings playing the same melody, kind of dragging the melody from one note to another. Wah, 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 wah. It is evocative of that Middle Eastern reference. So just like we had the growling of the Sorna before, now we have the low strings kind of dragging that melody in a way that makes you feel uneasy, makes you feel like it's stumbling towards you, but you can't exactly see it coming. That was also happening in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure soundtrack, in Dio's theme occasionally, Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, if I'm not mistaken. again, we have that bass line that they established with like pum pum pa 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 pum pum pum. But then you have almost a conflict between something that is slow moving, something that's a bit more clumsy, that is stumbling, into something that is extremely quick and wild and you can't follow it. More of a percussive drum and bass feeling because it's moving so fast and it's so dense in information. I do think it's very representative of Libra's movement in the fight. He can be very slow, moving around, hitting you heavily, or he can charge, be super fast, super aggressive, enraged, completely unhinged. And the soundtrack is kind of representing both of these ends very well. Now we've had, again, that counting from before. 2, 3, 4. As far as motifs go, right? Sometimes if your motifs are atonal, you have less melodic material to play with. So you do hinge a bit more on the level of dissonance, on the shape of the melodic lines you do have, and the rhythm that exists in the track. It's very cool. That's a really nice breakdown. It's not throwing you off, but it's that movement from something that has bass that is very full, something that's very heavy, to just like a xylophone run, like a drum fill, but it's made on a very small metallic instrument. Okay, the chanting is back, vocal chanting is back, but again, we're not getting a melody with it, we're getting just the texture, that ta. But they slowed down the tempo, which is not as common as you would think within a loop of music in video games. It is so significant in the way that we feel rhythm that it's going to throw people off. It's definitely going to throw people off, and it's going to make you panic. Imagine if in the middle of something very hectic and very quick, suddenly your enemy begins to like stand upright and walk slowly, like freaking Dio walking sideways, looking at you. It's like, I don't know what gave you this boost of confidence, but I don't like it. In Libra's case, sometimes he would go into a meditative state and you'd have to break him out of it before things get really bad and he gets super aggressive. I'm not saying that happens exactly at the moments in which that happens in the fight, but in this way, the theme is very much evocative of the nature and the mechanics of the enemy. Let's check out again that switch from the fast and the hectic into the slow and the concerning, okay? They're doing it so well. Oh, damn. Okay. Before, they just cut the tempo. They just made it slow again. Now, they are gradually climbing. This part of phase 2 is musical frenzy buildup. It is slowly building up both the tempo and the level of dissonance. The strings are giving you like da da dee da 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 dee, this dissonant pattern that keeps getting more and more intense the more you listen to it. Let's get back to the moment that Rise started, because that it's unreal. Now it starts accelerating. And there is this combination of like reversed vocals, unnaturally reversed vocals, like voices in your head, and they're moving unnaturally, kind of driving you crazy slowly. You have these scratchy synthesizers in it, which is so appropriate for a character inspired by Baphomet, because not only is it essentially a demon, it is the union of opposites. It is unifying the acoustic and the synthetic in one entity, because it will melt it all and burn it to the ground. Libra is called the equilibrious beast. The icon that usually is connected to the word Libra is a set of scales. In a way, the Flame of Frenzy is the ultimate equalizer. Burn down everything that divides and distinguishes. Everything melts, nothing survives the Flame of Frenzy. Back into the one great. Because the greater will made a mistake. And the Flame of Frenzy is going to make it right. This combination of the acoustic and the synthetic is really a powerful thing, especially in the way that it's utilized here in the Libra theme. Those things are indistinguishable from one another. They are not separate elements. It's like a big ball of chaos that everything falls into and nothing comes out. As far as chaos is concerned, nothing shall escape the Flame of Frenzy, not gods, not spirits, not people. It is the ultimate equalizer, regardless of the destruction and nihilism that it brings with it. You can see that fanaticism of let chaos take the world that we hear when Shabriri takes over Yura in the original game. It really comes through with this track, and I find it fascinating. Okay, that was a really cool breakdown moment. We've had an emphasis on the sound of either the strings, the synthesizer, or the Zorna from before. We've had those instruments now, and you can't really tell which one it is because it's been distorted so heavily. It's again how everything becomes the same, equalized under the Flame of Frenzy, being represented here by the sound of distortion, of saturation. It is the auditory equivalent of fire, of flame, of your identity being flattened by fire. It's great. It's fantastic. Here we have another push upwards into the hectic, into the dynamic, into the erratic rhythm, with all of the instruments kind of pushing to the edge. Madness overflows. The reason why we have this highly rhythmic portion right before the end of the loop is because they want to create contrast between how the loop started, which is very much more measured. It's much more organized. It's much more tame. So they want to create that contrast between something that rises and then you get the fall. It's all about that incline of dynamics and complexity. Then we have like a final explosion for phase 2. That slowing down, that playing with tempo, it's such a potent tool in video game music, and I think the reason why you usually don't get to do that is because it does increase the level of panic and difficulty for the player quite a bit. It takes quite a lot of attention. But from what I was able to tell, in the fight, it's pretty much appropriate to do, because Libra is changing rhythms himself, and creating that kind of difficulty is definitely within the experience of going mad, within the experience of your frenzy meter building, which I guess leads us to phase 3. Back to the bell, percussion. we have the vocals similar to how we had them in the first phase, but before them we do get the chanting, we do get that build. Some metallic presence, not as much as we had in the second phase, which is a good contrast. And the entry of the vocals, they're very high. We used to have lower vocals as well in the first phase, and here we basically get the sopranos of the choir really going at it. Let's hear it again. We began with something that by all means feels like it is slower in tempo than what we had before. It takes its time, it is less rhythmically clear, it is more menacing and large, and then smacks you to the face with an increase in rhythmic density, because like taka 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 taka, that sharp incline of rhythmic information is very effective at, what's the professional term I'm looking for? Scaring your players shitless. Yep, I think that's I think that's in the theory books. That's so metal. They're still doing it. The synths, obviously, synths and distortion, still there. A very good musical direction and production direction. The concept was very clear. But the tempo keeps rising. Not only did it sharply change into that faster tempo, it keeps going up, ever so slightly, but they definitely went for that musical frenzy buildup. Like, the more I listen to it, the more I think that was the brief, if you will. If we're gonna mute some of the percussion for a second, you'll notice how aggressive that sound is, that distorted lead sound, that it's been burnt by the Flame of Frenzy. It could be the woodwind instrument, it could have been a synth, you can no longer tell. So I'm taking away now some of the percussion so we can hear what we're left with. It's so dissonant and it's so dense that it's very difficult to look at it as melodic material. It's textural material at this point, at this speed. Again, that stretching of time, that stretching the rubber band, essentially. We went fast, slow. Now you have to deal with a new pattern, you have to deal with the new pacing. This will be difficult for players, right? You can be an experienced Nightreign player and say, yeah, Libra isn't a difficult boss, but when it comes to learning the boss, this is definitely making it harder to do on the fly, because your brain needs to learn a lot more than you intend it to learn. The soundtrack forces your brain into pattern recognition mode, and then it overloads it with patterns to learn, and it keeps switching them, it keeps messing them up, contradicting itself, and that would definitely create mental exhaustion. That is why Frenzy wins, because it doesn't stop. It never stops. The voices, they never stop. And eventually, your will is gonna get eroded. And in a moment of weakness, just like it happened to Yura, at a moment of heartbreak, at a moment of weakness, the Flame of Frenzy will be there, consistent, and it will capitalize on your despair. It's such a beautiful musical way of depicting it. Now, because we've had that melody from before, da-da-dee-da, da-da-dee-da, we've had that in the strings, and it was happening very fast. Now, It's happening with the bells, but they are detuned. Our brain knows the pattern from before, it at least sees it. It's familiar, but they detune the bells. So basically, the bells are off pitch and we know it. And it always keeps the sense of something foreign, something that we're fearing that is unfamiliar. It is constantly othering Libra, it's othering the Flame of Frenzy. The soundtrack is othering itself. They don't get enough credit for the soundtrack. I really do feel that. I know the soundtrack is appreciated very much, and you guys seem to, to love it a lot. I still think it manages to be underrated in general. Oh, up until now, the chanting was farther away. It was farther away. It was many people. Now I hear like one person. It's whispering in my ear. I don't like it. I don't like it. When something feels very close to us, it makes us extremely uncomfortable because on a physical level, we're evolutionarily designed to feel very uncomfortable with something being suddenly very close. The idea of ASMR is overstimuli, relying on the fact that we are not used to hearing things so close to us in a way that it's breaking our boundaries or like sense of personal space. By having something play only on your right ear, that means it needs to be so extremely close to your ear for your left ear not to hear it. It is uncomfortably close. A lot of the time in music, young composers would do that by mistake and they will hard pan something all the way to the left, creating a sense of real discomfort even when they don't intend to. Because again, if I hear something only from one side and I don't hear echo around it, and I hear kind of a very dry sound, especially vocals, that is a breach of our sense of normal physical boundaries. Because if something got that close to us without us noticing it, yeah, we are prone to be like panicked about it. It's a matter of survival. Very, very, very cool. And creepy. Mostly cool, but also creepy. Ah, okay. Okay. So this is the drop. There is a sudden shift from something that is whispering in your ear, prompting you to listen closer, into something that explodes in your face, which is as chaotic as it gets. Now, the sound is very distorted, and the leading instrument we can kind of hear at the top there is a violin playing very high and is off pitch. It's playing also in an uncertain way. It's a very talented performer that did that. I do not know their name, but I can tell you that playing with intentional uncertainty is a very expressive thing that you need to be highly skilled for. Having the pitch just off enough and the bowing just like uncertain enough for you to feel uncomfortable. The best way I can explain it is imagine that you're following a car somewhere, right? You're driving and the car in front of you is driving. And then after following it for a while, you see it starting to swerve and zigzag and drive in a dangerous manner. And you're like, am I supposed to follow this? Am I not supposed to follow this? Is there something on the road that they're trying to move around? And your brain's kind of like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? That's what's happening here with the violin. Such a cool usage of musical expression. Just great. Okay, now we're into prog metal. They're creating a pattern that is sort of asymmetrical in the sense that it's kind of hard to follow because it's shifting. The pattern is remaining similar, but it is placed on weird parts of the beat, which makes it hard for us to follow. Pay attention to the rhythmic emphasis of like the low belly of this portion of the soundtrack. Oh, 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 oh. It's not impossible to follow, but trying to follow it is taking resources off of your brain. And it's that delicate balance of introducing difficulty, but keeping things in a way that doesn't fall apart. Oh, that emphasis of the offbeat is like, eh, eh, eh. It's so unsettling because it's also made of like distortion and sound design. It's not an acoustic instrument that does it. So it's as if the acoustic things and the synthesizers and everything, they are saying a statement and something answers them, but you don't know what it is. Now, try to think of that idea when it's connected to fighting what is visually a demon. There is a distressed call. Like that high violin is like the merchants from the original Elden Ring. It's not the same melody, of course, it's played much higher, but it is a call. And their response, the thing that answers from the abyss, is something inhuman, something concerning, something unnatural. Great sound design and great compositional techniques by the team. This is exactly how you use sound design as a compositional tool, not just a production tool. It is a part of the piece. Without the instrument sounding like that, the piece would not be the same. Again, it just keeps slapping you in the face with building expectation and then subverting it. So you have like a little breakdown. It's like, oh, we're gonna get one of these quieter parts, one of the unsettling parts, right? So it breaks down for a little bit. And then the vocals go in. You're like, okay, sure. So the vocals are gonna join into this non-rhythmic pattern, right? It has rhythm, but it has no percussion. And then 2 beats after the vocals go in, the percussion comes in, like slaps you in the face. It's like, nope, you thought you got away, you didn't. And the music kind of chases you around, which definitely is very appropriate conceptually and very appropriate for the Libra fight in general. Just notice how in this small transition, they're really going from having you look at one thing to pulling your attention somewhere else to also smash your face with another sound, like a synthesizer. It begins with the violin, it moves to the choir, it moves to the percussion. The synth is rising with the distortion, like so really you don't know where to look. It is really taking the player through the experience of frenzy. The vocals are also so aggressive. They're getting more and more distorted, more and more guttural. There is more of techniques that we usually see in metal. The more growling, guttural, screaming sounds. They're usually characterized by having a lot of movements, a lot of high frequencies, having very fast vibrations with your vocal cords, using a lot of air to kind of evoke that sound, design it in that nature. And it makes us uncomfortable if it stays for too long, which is very interesting. I'll try to solo the vocals here and see what I get. Not only is it impossible to understand what they're singing or what they're doing, you can hear the same melody in the vocals that you heard in the violin, but they sang it in reverse. They sang it from the ending to the beginning, the opposite order of notes, and then they took the recording and they flipped it. And you can hear how it sounds like a recording that's being played backwards, but the order of the note is the same order of the notes on the violin. That's because they sang it backwards and then reversed it, which is such a care for detail. You know, you could say, yeah, let's just, do something that you can't understand and then reverse it and make it a mess. And, that's okay. But they went the way to record their vocalists doing the opposite order of notes and then reversing it because they knew in advance they wanted to create that unnatural amplitude envelope. Wah, 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 that swelling, weird movement of sound that we're really not used to when it comes to singing and when it comes to speaking. It is unnatural for our voice to move that way. And the uncanny valley is playing a huge part here. Ooh, okay. We get a lot of contrast. The changes become more and more frequent. You can see how in the previous phases, the changes took longer to happen. They had more time. They gave you time to get some kind of pattern, and then they would be subversive. Here, they're just not letting you have any time to learn any pattern. You're going to be able to notice what's happening, but by the time you try to follow it, you already have something new to learn. They're pulling off all the stops. It's so cool. And the sound of like the cello and the bass being pitched down. That's not done with the instrument itself. That's done in post. They pitched it down in the production. It's like Libra is a creature with a head of a goat, but it masquerades as a man. It is the familiar, the strings, but then they have sound design taking over them. The thing that Libra is really a deal with the devil kind of creature. More a concept, an embodiment of the concept of how chaos equalizes everything, rather than what he pretends to be, which is a man offering you a deal. So again, it's both in the macro levels of the soundtrack and the micro levels. They know so well how to represent each idea they're going for that for me, I can, as a composer, immediately sense all of these things because they pulled it off so well. I wouldn't be able to have those thoughts if they didn't have such a clear execution of it, which is definitely a W for this team, and Shoei Miyazawa in particular. Just exploding into a much faster form. I don't think we've ever had the tempo go that high before. And really, the pitched percussion, right, the xylophone-esque instrument is really just like going berserk now. It's like taka 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 taka, and it's really, I think, the most aggressive it's been so far. It keeps going faster. From everything running, the strings doing like all these runs, all these flourishes, and then coming into an explosion that doesn't reduce the dynamics, but the rhythmic emphasis becomes more sparse. That is menacing. That is exactly the same pattern we talked about before, from someone charging at you to him beginning to Dio walk around and kind of edge walk to establish dominance. What? Well, okay, I was about to say they keep hitting the brakes and the gas and the brakes and the gas, and now I think they messed with the tempo altogether for a little bit here. They went for a division of the rhythm that is intentionally making you think the tempo changed, but it didn't. The only thing you can do with the tempo that would be more jarring than just changing it is to make the listener think you changed it just to immediately get back to where you were. One thing is slapping you across the face. It is a jarring feeling. I do not recommend it. Do not try it at home. But it's something else to slap you with one side of the hand and then slap you with the other. It's a very potent tool to use as a composer. The fact that the players of the instruments could follow it and execute it so well is such a high level of performance. You really need to get top-notch performers for that. And these are people that, by the way, a lot of the times are heroes that go unsung, since we don't necessarily have their names presented as prominently. But every instrument player on this soundtrack, I freaking salute you. Both on the technical level, the expression, I admire that level of professionalism and that quality of musicianship. That really throwing you off. It's really unusual. Oh, slowing down. And just the voices. And the bell. That's all that's left. Crazy. We have that slowing down of the tempo. Essentially what's left after the Flame of Frenzy burnt everything to the ground. And that rise in vocals is very interesting. Check it out. Not only the chanting and the tribal speaking, you have in the back, distorted as all hell, the wind instrument we discussed in phase 1, the surna. That instrument is now so distorted and is playing so high, it is fully frenzied. Nothing is left of it. And I am amazed by how they pulled this off. It is genuinely impressive. Even as I heard the track in the game for the first time, I could feel this is a soundtrack I should cover. I think it's even more stunning when examined up close. I also want to say thank you guys so much for watching the videos, and your comments are really, really encouraging. If you have any ideas about the Libra theme and what it could mean, if you have ideas for other tracks I should check out, please put it in the description below. Drink, stretch, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.